Alright, hello everyone, and welcome back. I thought that seems a little loud. There we go. That's much nicer. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the joy of level editing. Today I'm going to be going over General Kenobi's Swamp Realm v3. And as always, I am going to be starting off this video with a playthrough of the map. Let's hope I'm in the right place to spawn. Nope. Okay, let's put the car right at the start, and then I'll come back to it. All right, here we go. Right up through this section. First thing I notice is that the wheels kind of get squashed to this entrance here. We could prevent that by switching to a cinematic car. Alright, I like the way the wheel makes sounds as it shifts to a stop on each of the individual rings. No real problems with the accelerodrome here, although I would change the texture of that portal, the Realms portal. Okay. I like the track. The track is good as far as textures go. So far the decorations are also pretty decent for the most part. The fog, this particle fog I would replace with biodome fog. Just because it's more consistent, it's easier to deal with, and it doesn't shift and it's not flat, so when you pass through it, it seems more solid. Kind of like a pea soup thing that's going on here. I see. Falling off the track, so we're just going to restart at the start here, and I'm going to be more careful because I remember that there are no repositional thrusters allowed in this map. I like the foliage, but there could be a little bit more consistency in the coloring. Some of these particles are a little bit too dark, I think. Especially for the rest of the environment, it just throws it off. There's a little bit too much contrast there. Alright, there's another checkpoint. First route I'm going to do is all the way down the tree. Let's see what's going on at the bottom here. I don't know if you could tell, but I'm playing on keyboard, so I'm just inching my way through the turns. Yeah, see, the fog just kind of blinks on and off, which is the thing that happens with particles, because the center point determines whether or not the particle is visible sometimes. And so if you're at like an odd angle looking at the particle fog, it'll just disappear. Oops. I do like the sound effects here, although again the fog could be used to great effect when dealing with this, because this isn't very murky. This part could be much murkier. Alright, let's try this branch right here. I think this is the hyperpod area. It looks like this is a version of Pines' hyperpod. The hyperpod looks like it's animating properly. But the sound object that came with it is no longer there. Lets you down. And that's more or less about how it should work. So the hyperpod, I'd say, is pretty good for the most part. Although there is a sound that starts when it begins animating that doesn't follow the player. Oh. The swamp monster wakes up and blinks. That's a very nice touch. The added sound effects right at the end here. Oh, for anyone wondering why the track texture is different, it's because you can swap out the resource files depending on... Oh, and it turns around. It's got two faces. And I'm just using the default distance resource assets file right now. You could stand to see a few animating splines. I think I'll play around with that towards the end. As far as ambiance goes, there's not a lot that I have a problem with. The trees are mostly good. The swamp decorations fit the aesthetic that this is going for. And the air is oppressive and just kind of it's close. But I feel like there could be more obstacles here towards the end. Alright, time to go back into the editor mode and put my criticisms to the test here. Alright, so my first criticism was the event trigger box and the start zone. So I don't have a problem with the with anything going on over here, but what I do want is to change it so that the wheels don't get pressed into the ground when it gets animated upwards. And there's a couple of ways of doing that, but the one I'm going to go with is using a decorative car object. The force zone box, invisible start zone. Where is it? That's going that way. Okay, so let's go point the car in the same direction. Copy player car, show wheels, and rotation speed is 0. That's good. Everything is as it ought to be. So let's go ahead and just set this decorative car up with an animator here. Have it play by default. And then let's do an event listener and have it play reverse on action. And then off action is play. So the event name is start rotation. Okay, so let's go ahead and do an event trigger box. Start, what did I call it? I've already forgotten. Start rotation. Start rotation. And so I'm just going to put this over here. Right here. And on here I'm also going to do a warp anchor. And my ID, let's do 50, other ID 51. Copied one objects. All right, and so I'm going to set the motion here. What I'm going to have this do is I'm going to have this drop below the little circle here momentarily while the car spawns in, and then as soon as the car spawns in, I'm going to have them swap places. In order to do that, I'm going to have this car right on the invisible start box, which it is. And then I'm going to have the translate type be local. And then I'm going to have it follow this. I'm going to have to set up the same animation here. Okay, so I'm going to have some nested animations. So this is going to get a little bit tricky because what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to copy the animation of this right here onto the car, onto the cinematic car. And then after I do that, I'm going to have to have it animate down once the warp is finished. So first things first, let's actually just paste this right on here. And then let's go ahead and test this. All right, looks good, looks good. Looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and group this with itself so I can put two animations on it. And then I'm going to add an animator here for sliding. I'm going to do the default action of play. And the sliding is going to be down. So down a little bit like this. The delay is 0 and the duration is 0, so it'll look much more like this. So the default action is play, and then I'm going to have an event listener here, start rotation, that will, on action, play reverse, and then off action play. So as long as the player's car is within the event, it will immediately rotate it into view. And then as soon as the car is out, then it will rotate it back out of view. So let's go ahead and give this a test. Perfect. So what we have to do now I'm going to name this fake car. And then we're going to go ahead and use a, don't forget to save, never forget to save, a warp anchor right here. That is going to be there and back. What's the time scale of this? So this is going to take 5 seconds and have a delay of 1, so 6 seconds. So the warp anchor needs to be time before returning 6 seconds. Is primary, yes. We want my ID to be 51, other ID to be 50. So it goes right to there, and then ID, let's go ahead and just turn all this off. And then ID after warp, new anchor after warp. This is the warp anchor that it is going to return the player to. Let's have this be 52. So I'm just going to copy this warp anchor right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and give this a, let's test all animations. Oops. Okay. So it's going to be right smack dab in the middle there. Here's what I'm going to do. Let's do test all animations, and then let's just grab the car's location data right from it. Right from here. So you can see the position should change for the fake car here. We copy and then paste. Nope. That just has those. Okay, that's fun. I remember I had a method for this. But it doesn't actually copy IDs. Let's go ahead and just get ourselves, so right in between here ought to be the right place. So let's go ahead and warp anchor, and then my ID 52, other ID 51. All right, let's go ahead and give this a test. Yes, that's right. I still didn't move the start car. One moment. Yes. All right. Now we've got the cinematic car here. But there's a bug. It looks like the camera returns a little bit before the car warps. So we're going to just change that warp duration to 5 seconds instead of the 6 that we had it to. And after messing with the time again, we forgot to test from the start. I'm just going to move the level test car to the right spot. All right, now that the car is in the proper position and I've messed with the warp anchor duration, it is still not working right. Okay, I think the issue was last time that the camera returns a little bit too fast. So why don't we just add a second to the camera return and see if that works. All right, there's one last thing I need to adjust here, and that is the warp anchor warp duration. So time before returning was correct at 6 seconds. However, the camera returned to the car a little bit faster than I would like. So let's go ahead, transition time from, and set that to 1 second. So it's a little bit smoother. And then let's go ahead and see what that looks like. All right. A nice, elegant start. Don't mind that the front and back of the car are missing. And I see that is a little bit too far. We'll just reset that again. And I think that's it for the start. The wheels aren't giving the player any issues, and I feel like this should solve instances where just because of physics interactions with moving objects, things just get bucky and don't work right. So I feel like we are good there. Okay, next item of business is this pesky fog here. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we're using currently. Let's turn off the track manipulator nodes and just see what this level would look like without clouds. I see. Clouds are all that this level is using. It's just using a lot of particles to get the fog and mist effect that it needs here. So here's the skybox. Let's go ahead and see what we can do with this level, just messing with the biodome. So this is the level biodome. It is quite massive. It encompasses the entirety of this level, where it rests upon a lake here. And let's go ahead and toggle view fog right here. So this is the fog that we're working with right now. We can see kind of hard lines out in the distance, and you can see the fog further back. So let's go ahead and increase the skybox fog amount to 1. Yes, and that's just how obscured the skybox is. So let's do this at a 0.7, and let's increase the color of the middle skybox color, so it is much brighter. So we're seeing a brighter fog here. And let's go ahead and let's do 0.9. That way it looks kind of foggy and far off without all that particle use. And then let's go ahead and increase the sky fade distance. Why not? Just so that things start to look a little bit more foggy here. This glassy kind of underwater look doesn't really suit the level, so why don't we just increase the sky fade just to about a quarter of what it is here. Let's do 300. That way objects in the distance just kind of blend in a little bit further. For instance, you can't exactly tell when this rock ends, when the skybox begins. It just starts to blend in and the colors match really well. Okay, so another thing here we have is we've got this fog here. So if we want the white fog, what we're going to do is increase that to like a really bright white. And let's go ahead and increase the density to, let's keep it at 1 actually. Just increase the density to 2. And then we're going to go ahead and, for the fog bottom, we're just going to go ahead and select this plane and grab that. Fog bottom right there. So that is the bottom of the fog. And for the fog top, let's go ahead and just select a little bit above the tree level right here. So why not something like... what do we got here? This track. So the bottom of this track is in fog. So let's grab that. That's the height level that we want the fog to stop. So that's the fog top. And then let's do fog top penumbra. And let's turn that down to 50. Right here, and then we've still got to do something about, let's do fog near, fog far. Fog far ought to be about the same as fog near, making fog distance. Okay, if we put fog near and fog far at the same level, it looks like it just cuts off everything further than a certain distance away from the camera. As you can see, the tree here stretches a little bit further away from the camera, depending on what direction you're looking. So what we want to do is we want to have it just kind of be dense at this level around here, and then just slowly increase in density until it gets further and further away. So fog near, we're just going to have that. Why don't we... So fog near is the distance at which the fog starts. This should be close, should be 5. Fog far is the distance at which the fog is at full density. I think at this point we could probably do with less bright fog. So let's go ahead and increase this to, so diffuse, bump. Additive transparency. Let's just give this additive transparency right here. That way the fog still affects it, because if you turn on both additive and multiplicative, multiplicative transparency exempts it from being affected by fog, which is something we don't want. So we're going to leave multiplicative transparency off for that setting right there, and then we're going to go ahead and why don't we turn the fog top down to where the fog bottom is. So the fog top and bottom are around the same distance. So now we've got just kind of a bottom here that's wreathed in fog, and the top is a little bit higher. So let's go ahead and actually, why don't we just put the fog top a little bit higher than it is right now, so that the tops of these this swamp isn't totally done with fog. So the fog top, let's go ahead and fog top penumbra, raise that, and then have the distance for the fog here be a little bit greater. Let's do 50 here, and then fog far 200. There we go. So that's nice and foggy, but you can still kind of see your surroundings. And then from the top, the fog starts to lift a little bit, and you can see from the bottom. So I'm happy with what I've got going on ambiance-wise here, and I didn't have to use any particles to do it. So let's go ahead and actually just turn this down a little bit so it matches. And then you've got just kind of a background that is always kind of further out in the distance and isn't this, oppressive, obscuring fog. So it's a swamp, and it does seem like the swamp goes on for quite a while, but not quite as far as you'd think. If we want some more fog, why don't we just, sky fade distance, let's do 150. Why don't we just actually decrease the sky far to 600? No, that's too far. It's too close. Okay, so that's that. I feel like I'm happy with the ambiance now. The only other things I had a problem with were the treetops. The treetops had leaves that were a little bit too dark. So let's go ahead and see what we got here. Hopefully they're not, they're just called group. Okay, so I'm just going to show you what that looks like for the particles here when you actually change the color middle to something more reasonable. So let's go ahead and grab this and just make it a little bit darker. Something like that. Not totally black. The trees seem to be more at home with this color, I think. Then what do we got here? Spline golden particles. Shocking. Okay. Average color. Let's just do color. There we go. And copy these. And then paste. And we just want to paste everything around here, and it's the quickest way to do it is just by first we want to give these a custom name, swamp tree here, so that they're able to be found in the settings here, so we don't confuse them with other groups. Swamp tree. And if we want to further make the sorting of these easy, we can use a group sorting layer, move them over, and then just go ahead and freeze everything that isn't what we're looking at. And then we just grab everything that's not a tree and move it back to default or whatever layer it was in. And then soon we'll be able to deal with everything here a little bit easier. The power of layers is pretty spectacular, actually. You can do a lot of really great organizational stuff using layers as a tool here. But you want to make sure to rename everything either way, even if there are quick methods to get back to it by. Let's do swamp tree, and now they're all swamp trees. So we could just find these in the layout here. Let's go ahead and do color, and let's go ahead and go down to, I see a virus tech panel here somewhere. So clearly one of these is not a swamp tree. Is it you? Is it you? You? It's a shame I can't just thumb down through these. And since these are all copy and pastes of the same object, we can change properties of them by group selecting. which I will show you how to do in a minute here. So these three, I think I've already changed, so I'm just going to move them to default so I don't see them here. And naming your custom object before duplicating it can really help with avoiding things like this further on in editing. Ah, there it is. Let's go ahead and move this to... Gosh. Let's go ahead and move this to default. And then just make sure there aren't any others. Okay, I think that's everything. So I'm just going to select everything here, and then color, and then paste. And then that's all the tree leaves fixed pretty much all at once. So that saves a lot of time on individually setting the colors, with just a little bit of organization work. And then later on, if I wanted to edit the trees, all I'd have to do is find them right here, and then just select them, and then edit their properties as a group, because they're all more or less the same. Okay, the last thing I had a problem with was the lack of obstacles at the end. And then after that, that should pretty much do it for criticisms of this map. Otherwise, I feel like it's mostly solid. The track work, of course, could always be a little bit more... These are just floating leaf particles. It's just a canopy that's not attached to a tree. There's some more. There's some more right there. And then, yeah, last thing was just obstacles toward the end. So I'm just going to go ahead and take these swamp trees. Go ahead and toss them in group sorting so that they are out of the way, so I can see what I'm working on from higher up. It looks like this is pre-swamp tree. This is what the object was created out of. Just some spline objects right here. All right, so it looks like this is the start of the level. And then it gradually goes from zone to zone to zone, and through little thickets here, little puddles and thickets, and with a lot of twisty-turny track, which is very confusing, but I mean, part of the idea of this level. Oh, well, what do I see here but an uncapped track spline? I thought he was better than this, but I guess not. I guess it happens to us all. Track manipulator node. Okay, and then these I would actually just bring a little bit back so that they overlap, so it looks like it's actually joining. That all this mesh is there for a reason. I don't like how that track spline doesn't align properly. I mean, really, if you wanted to, you could use something like, oh gosh, a cylinder. You just turn it on its side like that. And then disable collision, and then let's maybe just grab the texture off the road or something. Some sort of vine texture. Vine. I think I should be able to find it in the index. Yep, right here. 34. Make it green. Not too green, but a little bit lighter. Now the tracks the splines are at least capped here. Even if it's less than elegant. Just some sort of joiner right at the threshold. And there's even more types of caps than just what we got here, like these, for example. Yes. Right there. So we can use that to block off whatever this misses. All right. So moving on from that, I'm going to go ahead and set up some simple repeating obstacles toward the end that are in keeping with this track's theme, which is vines and swampy areas and such. So I'm going to go ahead and actually these vines look a little bit too photosynthesis-y. They look delicate, so I want to get some cable actually. That would probably be in splines HD or just regular splines. Yep, right here. Wires. I'm going to either get wires or scales. Wires I found works good because you can disguise it as as vines fairly easily. So we just turn the emit color down and maybe make it more green, and then turn the base color to green, and then voila. Looked like wires, but now it's a vine, especially if it twists. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting some little obstacles around these tracks right here. And of course, the placement of the obstacles really just depends on all right. Scale. We want to scale this down small, so it's got like a pointed tip. But yeah, the placement of the obstacles is really just kind of your discretion. But just the nature of them is what I'm trying to highlight here. So let's go ahead and here we've got a vine. We want this vine to curve. We want it to curve very nicely. We want it to be basically like something like this, but maybe a little bit longer. And then just keep extruding it until you get like a good crescent shape. And you want it to be kind of pointy on either end. And then we group, and then we set up animations. So first thing we're going to do is turn it so that it is, let's set the rotation to 0, 0, 0. So that it is like a crescent here, but an aligned one. Like Kenobi reminds me occasionally, you need to make sure these things have like a good X, Y, and Z like position, because if it's at an odd angle when you animate it, then that's gonna make it more difficult to set up the proper movement. Right now, we want it basically to spin in this direction. So we just want to set that up, and then let's set the center point a little bit closer here, so it kind of makes a little bit more of a circle, and it follows those tracks more or less. So let's go ahead and set a delay of 5 and a duration of 1, and just loop that to play. And we do that, call it the dodge vine, because this is supposed to be an obstacle here that players are going to have to dodge. And then we just want to see, then we can mess with time offsets later. We just want to see, oh, that's right, we can't attach it to the track because it's a spline. That's what I was trying to do. We just want to see what that looks like when we've got several of them just kind of going at once. And they can intersect with the track a little bit, and not all of them have to actually block the track entirely. They're just there to, let's do an offset of some random number. You can just type in random numbers and then have it copy the track later, or have it, and then just like do fine tune as you need, essentially. And not all of them have to block the track, but it gives it more of a feeling of like something is actively trying to prevent you from reaching your destination. And we're just going to go ahead and give this a test afterwards. So there we go. This one goes through the track a little bit, but that's okay. Each one of them have like a little bit of a different time offset. So let's go ahead and take a look at and test animations. Test all animations. So it would be playing. Let's go ahead and loop. And then what we want to do actually is just twist it so that it's kind of concealed. And so occasionally you're going to get little pieces that go over. Why don't we actually reduce the delay here to just like 2 seconds. And then let's go ahead and mess with this a little bit so you don't see. There we go. Let's go ahead and test. And then we can also set up flailing branches here. And we do that in a very similar way to how we set up these guys. So these are pieces of vine that are just going to kind of snake across the track before disappearing. But flailing branches would be a different design. It'd be more of a like, oh, here comes this thing. This is gonna, this is just kind of, flailing around and trying to keep you from reaching the end. So very similar concept, but a little bit different execution. We want to grab some splines similar to this. We might even just be able to use what we got here. to we got to turn this, put that up a little bit. You want to make sure that they're well above the track, that they block it, but that they're, you know, possible to dodge. Okay. Next thing here is we've got flailing branch that we want to make. Let's go ahead and actually just kind of make this larger and then add some copy here, paste here, and then add this end. And then we can group this guy. And then, oops. Let's bring the rotation back to 0. And then group. Flailing vines. And then let's set an animator here. What kind of an animator? Let's do another spin, but this time on this axis. 1. And then let's set the center point for this further down. And right here. Nope. Back here. And then I'm just going to go ahead and set the duration to 3 seconds. Have it play and loop. And then I'm going to mess with this center point here. I don't think it much matters where that is. And then set it so that it is rotating on that axis right there. And then just, I think I'll actually copy the materials on these vines so it looks more homogeneous here. Now we've got little vines that are the same texture and consistency as what we've got here. So we just set up a few parts where this is intersecting with the track somewhere. And it's spinning on its side, so I'd say it makes sense to have it be here-ish. And then let's just increase that size a little bit. Go up and test that. Actually, rotation, I think. Test animation. And let's add a little bit of some variability to the rotation axis so it seems more organic. If we could add jitter, then I would. But unfortunately, I don't think that's possible. And then let's go ahead and take the center point down. What we want is to have it animate right from here. And then let's go ahead and just mess with those rotation magnitudes again. Let's do 0.3 and then negative 0.3 and see what that does. That's a good flail. So I'm going to just go ahead and add this to parts right here. And not all of it has to hit the track. Of course, it would be nice if it does. But it really is just to give this swamp more a feeling of like kind of this malevolence. Oops, dodge, not a dodge vine. We want a flailing vine. Let's go ahead and give this one a flailing vine as well. These are kind of like wrecking balls in that you have to watch out and be careful for them, because they're going to try and grab you. All right. And with that, I think my critiques are more or less done. Just redid the ambiance a little bit here and added some more of this fog here to the back. I feel like some skybox fog, a little bit more skybox fog would probably be good here. Skybox fog density, maybe. Oh yeah, do I have fog enabled? Yep, I do. Let's go ahead and yeah, I'd say that about wraps it up. If you have any submissions that you want to send in to have me go over, then you can do that in the distance level editor channel in the Discord. I'll leave a link to the Discord in the description. I think there should be one there already in the previous episodes, but just let me know if you have a level that you or someone you know has made and you want me to go over it and offer creative criticism. And since that's the end of this episode, I will see you all next week.